Hey, welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about jump and your life will appear step 4 today. So if you've missed steps 1, 2, and 3, if you just do a search in the group for the word jump, those videos will pop up. And I think in the last one I said we were going to do 1 step a day for the rest of the month to keep on track. And you know what, ladies? Okay, here's what I've discovered is that pace didn't work for me. I overcommitted when I said I was going to do 1 a day. So I'm just committing to you that we'll get all 10 steps in by the end of the month. So today, step 4 is make one choice different. And again, if you've just joined the group or you are new, let me quick introduce myself. I am Vicki Haddock. I'm a transformational women's coach, and I believe that we were put here on this earth not to survive, but to thrive. And in order to thrive, we have to heal the hurts that have hold us back. We have to connect to our internal guidance system. And then we have to really be committed to stepping forward and living our authentic best lives in every area of life. So physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, what am I missing? Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. I'm missing one of my 5. Anyway, it'll come to me. So if you're here and along the journey with me, it's probably because you've experienced some emotional trauma. And emotional trauma, either you are just, really new to getting out of emotional trauma, or you've been working on it for a while. Because here's what happens. Healing from emotional trauma first remains cleaning up our own, oh my gosh, guys, there's a fly buzzing me. Cleaning up our internal life so that we can then begin to have our physical world match. And the more that we kind of tame the inner chaos in our inner world, then the more we're able to tame the chaos in our outer world. So it's all an inside job. And many people look to blame and point to other people. If they didn't do that, or if they didn't have this characteristic, or if they didn't do this or that, then I wouldn't have the hurts that I have. I wouldn't be the way I am. So here's what I believe, ladies, that as adults, we're all 100% responsible for the choices that we make. And if you don't like the situation that your life has been in, then you get to choose differently. And that's what we're going to talk about in step 4, jump in your life will appear, is make one different choice. So Nancy Levins says that if you've been following along with this story, she had an affair, and then 8 years later, her husband found her journals and read about it. And so she says, in the 2 years after my husband confronted me about the affair, he kicked me out 5 times, but she only went back 4 times. So it says it got to the point that I couldn't continue the dysfunctional cycle anymore. And so she chose to ask for 30 days of no contact. And she made it clear to him that if he contacted her during those 30 days, she would restart the 30 days again. So that was the first different decision that she made. She made the decision that she wasn't going to just stay in this cycle. And if you do any work with me one-on-one or in a group setting or class setting, one of the things we do is talk about patterns and kind of diagram those patterns and look at what's the one thing you can do different to interrupt that cycle. So she says that I began to take back control, and at first it felt like I was losing control. But, really feeling like we are in control at all is an illusion. And when we're enslaved by fear, we're not free to move with the flow of life, with the flow of where life brings us, or to follow our own hearts and desires. And a life, so we can follow our truth and our desires, creating the kind of life we most want, a life filled with possibility and enjoyment rather than tension and terror. but too frequently we're choosing peace and comfort over fear. So a lot of the things that you ladies have done in the past, that I've done in the past to keep the peace around you, is actually sacrificing your own internal peace in order for someone else to have peace. And one of the things that we have to learn on this journey is that sacrificing yourself never leads to the goal that you're seeking in your life. If you're one desiring to live a thriving life, a life full on in all areas, then sacrificing yourself just doesn't work. So breaking free of those negative patterns is important, and making one different choice can have an enormous impact on breaking free of those patterns. And here's the thing, inevitably, if you're moving towards living a life that is in alignment with who you're supposed to be, somebody on your path is going to be upset. Somebody on your path is going to feel betrayed, because now all of a sudden, they were used to you doing all sorts of things for them. Now you're not doing that. And it causes them to be off balance and out of balance. But the key is that if you spend your life focused on trying to please everybody around you and keep them in balance, then it totally tips you out of balance, and you'll never get to that strong, centered place that you desire to be. So it's all about making a different choice. And understanding also that your individuality can never be replaced by everyone else. The many women who've come out of toxic relationships, there is a strong element of codependency in those relationships. And codependency is all about believing that if we do something for someone else, then they are going to love us and treat us how we want them to. It's all about believing that the more that we do, then if we just do enough, we're going to reach that magic level where suddenly they love us. And guess what? That is never true. And it's one of the lies of codependency. So realizing that you are whole and worthy as an individual, just as you are, is important. And Nancy Levins says, my individuality can never be replaced by anyone. It's about who I am, not what I do. I had been living in a long-running story that everyone loved me because of what I did for them. So if you're a mom who's over-invested in her kids, if you are a daughter who has over-helped her parents or her partner, that leaves you feeling drained, resentful, and unloved. But it's not because those people in our lives are doing necessarily something wrong, but it's because we did something with a false expectation. We did something for the wrong reason. If we want to help someone, it should be out of the genuine fullness and overflowing of our heart. And it also is not something that they can do for themselves. When we do things for people that they can do for themselves, we actually steal their power and their ability to, live in their own light. So, okay. Letting go of a standard of perfection. Codependency, toxic relationships also leave us feeling like we have to do things perfectly, like we're walking on eggshells. Everything has to be a certain perfect way, otherwise chaos is going to ensue. Sometimes you have to tiptoe an inch at a time towards a new life, and that gives you courage. And that's what it is all about. So even though we're talking about making jumps and leaps, the best way that you make jumps and leaps, big leaps, is actually taking a small action every 2 weeks towards that goal. And that involves accountability, having the right support system around you, and here's the thing. When you make change, it makes the people around you uncomfortable because, number one, it throws relationships out of balance because the other people don't know what to expect anymore. When you're going through personal change and you start responding differently in an aggressive situation, or you just don't engage in that aggressive situation, maybe that is the way you respond differently, it throws the other people off balance. They might even feel jealous to see you moving towards finding more peace, happiness in your life. And it might really magnify where they feel stuck and trapped in their own life. So you making changes and may trigger how trapped that other people feel in their own life. And then they have the choice to say, am I going to change or am I not going to change? And usually that is the determination in a relationship. If you're in a relationship that's struggling right now, what we call a toxic relationship, I don't think a toxic relationship is caused by one person. And I know in our culture, it's popular to say that, that this person's a narcissist or this person's a narc or my narc. I just don't buy into all of those things. Someone definitely might have extremely narcissistic characteristics, and they might not be willing or open at all to change those characteristics. But if you are there in that situation, there's just as much hurt inside of you that's allowed you to be there and stay in that situation as there is inside that person that's causing them to act that way. And that's why I don't label. That's why I don't, when people use the term like my narc or things like that, that's just not appropriate, because when you then are defining yourself by that person, and you're also labeling that person in a way that is unreasonable. Certainly there are extreme personality disorders that are diagnosed as such, and other than that, people can have extreme narcissistic qualities. And listen, if they do and they don't want to change that, which is often one of the narcissistic characteristics, is they're so certain of their rightness and their need for everybody else to conform, that, honestly, that's probably just a personality characteristics that no longer fit in your world, because those personality characteristics suck all the light out of the people around them. And then guess what? What is it in you that allows you to need to stay there and have the light sucked out of you? That's a hurt inside of you. And so when you look inward and to heal that thing, that need, then it allows you to break free. So step by step, healing your internal world. And we have a lot of assumptions about how terrible things are going to go if we make a change. That's why inch by inch change is so awesome, because we can make a tiny change and we can see, the sky didn't fall. I made a change and the sky didn't fall. And now I can make one more change and see that the sky didn't fall. And Nancy Levins says, in my experience, the sky doesn't usually fall to the degree that we expect it to. So take a moment to question your assumptions. Have you blown the stakes out of proportion? I would say we're all guilty of this at one point in time, or multiple points in times, where we catastrophize what the results of an action might be, and almost never do things unfold the way that our inner critic has us imagining them that they could unfold in the worst case scenario. So how can you keep yourself anchored throughout change? She says, anchoring yourself by continuing to talk to someone safe and visualizing your new life. That's the importance of having a counselor, a coach, or whatever. And you know what? You're probably getting some great value with the material that you're finding here in this group. And I absolutely hope that you are, because that's why it's here. But if you are really intensely ready for significant change, working with a coach, a counselor, someone to hold you accountable is a key in helping you consistently grow and not get trapped in fall into a pothole along the way. So and then she goes on to talk about a client that she worked with who her husband wanted her to always be in bed when he woke up in the morning. He wanted to wake up next to her every morning, but she went to bed earlier than him, and she wanted to get up early and do her exercises and whatever she wanted to do in the morning. So her fear of what would happen or how he would react if she wasn't there in bed every morning kept her, acting and staying in bed even when she wanted to do something differently. So when she began working with Nancy as her coach, she addressed this situation and she committed to getting out of bed early 1 day a week, and then 2 days a week. And then she committed to deciding each morning when she woke up whether she wanted to get it out of bed and do her thing or whether she wanted to stay in bed to be able to greet her husband when he woke up. So the thing is, we teach people how to treat us. And when we stand firmly in our own truth and make certain needs non-negotiable, we create a new cycle for accepting ourselves and others. And if you have been in a relationship, maybe you've been in a cycle where you feel taken advantage of all the time, but you've never actually learned to voice those needs and to speak up and to say what you truly need, then you've taught the people around you that they can do whatever they want, and you're not going to stand up for yourself. You're not going to hold them accountable. And so doing one thing different is important, and teaching them a new way. So the challenge is decide one thing you're going to do differently today. It doesn't have to be a major thing. It can just be that when you feel like you don't want to cook, you can choose not to cook, and you can choose to decide where to order food in from, or you can choose to let your family figure out what they want to eat for the night without you having to be the chef. So the journaling exercises at the end of this chapter is turn off your autopilot. Write one change you can make in your routine that will immediately open you up to new possibilities. And as we talked about in the first step, we move towards the things we're unconsciously committed to. So consciously commit to the change that you want to make. And then the next journal question is, I commit to changing, fill in the blank. What fears do you have about making that change? If I do this, then what would happen? And are these fears rational? If you think your fears are likely to come true, think about how will you manage any repercussions from the changes that you make. If you worry that someone in your life will react with anger or extreme emotion, can you visualize this person reacting differently? Yeah. And then write down your excuse inventory. Completely empty your brain of all the reasons you tell yourself you cannot make this change. And finally, what positive results do you see happening as a result of this one thing you're doing differently? Perfect. This is a step about doing one thing differently, and it becomes a muscle. When we learn a new pattern, we learn that we can step out and make one change, and the world doesn't fall in around us, then we have the courage to make another change and another change and another change until we look back and see that we've taken a huge leap step by step. Now, each chapter ends with a moment to forgive, and the moment here is think about the patterns in your life that have caused you pain. Do you feel frustrated that you've let them go on so long? Do you have judgments about yourself because of them? Do you blame others, like your parents, your partner, or your boss, for those patterns? Take a moment to breathe, forgive yourself and others for any negative patterns that have played out in your life, and honor those patterns for teaching you what you need to know in order to move forward. Forgiveness, I think, is a topic that can be, it's like something that we nebulously see out there, but sometimes we can't really reach our hand in and actually grab onto what it is and how to do it. So if you're struggling with the idea of forgiveness and how do I do that, what is it, what does it look like, instead replace the word forgiveness with unconditional acceptance. I unconditionally accept the experience that I've had, the patterns that I see, and when we unconditionally accept something as it is at face value, then we can begin looking more accurately to how we can make a change. Okay, so hope this has been helpful for you guys, and I will look forward to talking to you in the jump step 5. Bye-bye.